Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron. It is the game review, Chelsea 2, Everton 2. Apologies that this one is a few days late. I've had a busy few days, but I thought, you know what, we haven't done a review yet, so we'll sit down. We'll do a little 10, 15, 20 minute video just talking about Everton's 2-2 draw with Chelsea at Stamford Bridge last Saturday. The game, of course, takes Everton into the ongoing international break. 3 games unbeaten now, of course, with that draw against Chelsea, the win, of course, against Brentford previous to that, and the draw with Nottingham Forest before that one. 3 games unbeaten going into what is I don't know whether it's a needed international break. I don't really feel like, as strongly as I have done in recent international breaks where I've been looking forward to it, because Everton have been in that bad of form and we've really needed the break and we've really needed the, the week off to sort of recover and go again. However, in a season like this one where times are difficult and the future of the football club is very much uncertain, to say the least. A 12-day break without Everton off the back of a really important point at Stamford Bridge is not the worst thing in the world, is it? Let's be perfectly honest. A really important performance I felt on Saturday. Not the greatest performance by any sense of the imagination. Of course, it's always difficult going away to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. We haven't got the greatest record there, of course. In terms of performances wise, there's been a couple of good performances in recent years, but we haven't won there since 1994, and Everton don't often come from behind against anybody really to get anything out of a game of football, never mind against a side like Chelsea away from home. And we did on Saturday. We did this on 2 occasions. We come from behind in really emphatic circumstances against the side that are in pretty good form themselves. Now obviously this Chelsea team isn't as potent as the Chelsea teams that we've seen in the past, but they're still a decent side. Okay, they might be below standard for what they expect, but they're still a team that, will fight for the European positions this season. I've got, a lot of really talented footballers there. They had a midfielder in there who cost, 120, 130 million pounds very recently. They've got forwards in there that have cost them 80 million quid, a defender for 60, 70 million pound. There's a lot of top quality international players there, and it was always going to be difficult for Everton to come away from that game with, anything, including a point, especially when you think about the fact that we were behind twice in the game. So it wasn't an unbelievable performance. It wasn't an absolutely amazing game of football to watch. It pretty much went how I expected, to be honest with you. Chelsea were the team in control for the majority of the game. Chelsea were the team that were in possession. Chelsea with the team that, were coming forward and were attacking, but it was always about Everton being able to defend. It was always about Everton being able to soak up that pressure, and it was always about Everton being able to take the opportunities when they arrived, and, if we were to go behind, to not drop our heads and to pick ourselves up and go again. And that, for me, is the biggest thing about this game, is not necessarily the results or the performance in itself, but it's more so that I think the mentality is changing at the football club at the moment. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still a long way to go, and I'm not by any sense of the imagination sitting here saying that one result and that one performance means that everything is okay now and everything's changed and everything is absolutely fine, because it isn't. But to see us go behind on a couple of occasions and not lose our heads and not sulk and not completely capitulate, actually pick ourselves back up and get back into the game, is something that we're not very used to as Evertonians, especially not in games against, difficult sides like, the likes of Chelsea away from home. I mean, we conceded the penalty on the 76th minute, 15 minutes to go, away from home, against a team that we haven't managed to beat away from home in, 30 odd years. It it was never going to be an easy task, and it would have been very, very easy for these players to have dropped their heads, to have, completely folded, to have lacked confidence, and, to have gone on and lost that game, even by maybe, another 1 or 2 goals, because, the confidence will have drained, but they didn't. They picked themselves back up. They had belief. They believed in themselves, and obviously, the manager brings on Ellis Sims, who gets his moments and takes it absolutely brilliantly. I'm still a little bit in awe of Ellis Sims' goal, to be perfectly honest with you, because it's not a back post tap in. He could have easily had a back post tap in, by the way, with Dwight McNeil's shot. If Dwight McNeil's shot is saved by Kepa, or even if Kepa gets anything on it, then it rebounds out to Ellis Sims and he's got an easy finish. But I suppose, unfortunately, the goalkeeper didn't get a touch on it. But it's not a back post tap in. It's not the ball bouncing around in the area. And he's managed to get on the end of it. It was a really, really, really potent striker's finish, and a finish that very much reminded me of Romelu Lukaku's time at Everton, and very much reminded me specifically of Romelu Lukaku's goal against Chelsea at Goodison Park in the FA Cup quarter-final a number of years ago, where he just completely embarrassed the defender, and that's what Ellis Sims did. It was a great knock-on by Abdoulaye Doucouré, and Ellis Sims absolutely made a £70 million defender in Kalidou Koulibaly look absolutely atrocious. He outstrengths him. He drives into the box, and as I said in the instant match reaction last Sunday, there isn't a part of Ellis Sims's mind for me that isn't thinking, I'm going to score a goal when he picks that ball up. I think as soon as he picks that ball up, everything about him is focused on getting in the right area and getting a shot away, and that's what we've lacked in this team. Now, look, Ellis Sims might not be ready to start Premier League games of football. Ellis Sims might not be ready to be a permanent fixture within this team, and he still has got a lot to learn. He's still a young lad. He's still, extremely inexperienced. He's still got a lot to learn if he's going to be an established Premier League forward. But one thing that you can't teach is that instinct. One thing that you can't necessarily learn, you've either got it or you haven't got it, is that natural instinct when you pick the ball up in those areas to think, right, I'm going to drive and I'm going to create an opportunity for myself. He's big, he's tall, he's very physical. Clearly, Kalidou Koulibaly isn't a small fella. And he knew in his mind, as soon as he picked that ball up, what he wanted to do. He knocks it past the defender and he finishes brilliantly. And I've seen a couple of people criticising the goalkeeper, and I watched Ben Foster's football fill-in video the other day, and he completely takes away the credit from Ellis Sims and focuses on it being a goalkeeper mistake. But I think that's quite ironic, really, because if that was a 22-year-old lad of a certain other football clubs who'd come on for one of his only Premier League games and managed to pick up a point for his team in the last couple of seconds, there certainly wouldn't be as much focus on the goalkeeper. It would be all the focus on the player himself. So I find that quite funny. But I completely disagree with it. I think Ellis hits it in a way that, okay, the goalkeeper maybe could have done a little bit better, and maybe a top world-class goalkeeper would have saved that, but 99% of goalkeepers, certainly in the Premier League, aren't saving that shot. It was a really, really, really good finish, and as I said, for me, what is more impressive is the build-up to that finish, knocking it past the defender, and having that mentality and that instinct to know that you're going to create an opportunity for yourself. And like I said, that can't be taught. You've either got it or you haven't, and Ellis Sims showed that, okay, he might still have a lot to learn, and he might need to get a little bit more physical, he might need to get a little bit more sharp, and he might need to positionally become a little bit better. But he's got that instinct, and at the moment, I really question whether anybody else in this Everton team has that instinct, maybe barring Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who of course is constantly out injured at the moment. Dom has reportedly travelled over to Dubai over the last couple of days to undertake some warm weather training with, I think, his own personal trainer and maybe a coach from the football club as well, of course, during the international break, to try and, further his recovery, and hopefully we'll see a return of Dominic Calvert-Lewin after this international break. But yeah, it was a really, really, really impressive finish, and it was a really great moment for Ellis Sims. But as I said, the focus wasn't just about Ellis Sims on Saturday, I thought the overall performance was one that I think we can look at and we can take a lot from. Now, I don't really sit here and when I watch games like this, I don't really pay much attention to the fact that Chelsea had a lot of the possession, or that Chelsea were the team that were attacking, or Chelsea were the team that were much more positive on the day. I don't really pay much attention to it, because there's not really a world in which I could have envisioned Everton going to Stamford Bridge and being the attacker, being the aggressor, being the team that were absolutely unbelievable and played Chelsea off the park. It hasn't happened in the 25 years I've been alive. It was never going to happen in a season where we're lacking so much going forward, and where we're obviously in a relegation battle, for the second time in the space of the same year. So, that was never going to be the case for me. It was always about, working hard, battling, believing in yourself, taking your opportunities, defending well, and trying to get something out of this game. And I suppose the biggest disappointment of this game was, for me, both goals are once again individual mistakes. And without those two individual mistakes, I don't think Chelsea have much, whatsoever. Okay, they had a couple of half opportunities here and there, but nothing that really troubled Jordan Pickford. The first goal is, again, okay, you could say a really good finish by João Felix, but for me, he's given far too much time in the box. And the second goal is a really, really, really stupid penalty, and ultimately a decision by Ben Godfrey and James Tarkowski that could have cost us what would have been a really, really important point. Thankfully, Ellis Sims come on and rectified that. But that is, for me, still the thing that we need to, we need to sort of zone in on. And the Blues made a good point on the instant match reaction, I think the other day, saying that not many goals that are scored, are completely mistake-free. 99% of goals that any team will score, whether it be, an opposition team against Everton or anybody else, will at least come from some sort of mistake from the opposition, whether it be as drastic as some of the mistakes we've seen from Everton this season, or whether it just be a simple misplaced pass. The majority of goals that teams concede will have some form of responsibility, put at one of their players, and I completely agree with that. And not often do you see goals scored in the Premier League where you sit back and you go, that's just a genuine, unbelievable finish that nobody could do anything about. There's always somebody to put the blame on. So I get that point. I just feel like a lot of the goals Everton concede are extremely avoidable. Okay, maybe I'm being a little bit harsh with the João Felix goal, because it is a really good, clever finish, but the penalty is certainly an avoidable situation. And as I said, for me, the most impressive thing about Saturday's performance and result was the mentality. It was the mentality to know that with 15 minutes to go away at Stamford Bridge, you're 2-1 down, and you go one of two ways. You either go the way we've seen a lot of times, at Everton over the last couple of years, of, well, we've conceded now, so our heads will drop, and, we'll either go and concede again, or we won't, the game will fade out and we'll end up losing it. We've seen it against Manchester United at Goodison a couple of years ago. We've seen it against Liverpool this season in the Merseyside derby. Or you sort of do the old adage of 0-0 again, or go again, or when you used to play football as a kid and you'd concede the goal early on, and then your manager would say, right, ignore that, it's 0-0, go again, and it sort of just resets the mentality. I feel like that's a little bit what happened on Saturday, and Everton continued to play the way that they were playing, continued to push, and then obviously managed to get what was a really, really deserved equaliser. By the way, Everton deserved something out of that game. Without a shadow of a doubt, Everton deserved something out of that game. Chelsea weren't great either, although they were the aggressor, although they were the team with the most possession. Chelsea weren't great either. They didn't have an awful lot. They weren't massively, putting pressure on Everton. It wasn't like they had chance after chance after chance after chance. Don't get me wrong, Everton, I think, defended really well for the majority of the game. I thought James Tarkowski, other than the penalty situation, was really solid, and I thought Michael Keane once again had a really, really, really solid performance. And if you haven't checked out our last video on the channel, we spoke about Michael Keane specifically and why Sean Dyche is preferring him to Yerry Mina at the moment, because I think it's a really, really interesting conversation. So if you haven't checked that video out, please do so after this one. But yeah, it was a generally defensively a really solid display and a really impressive display, and we, without a shadow of a doubt, deserved something out of that game. And as I said, it is just a little bit disappointing when you can analyse the goals that you concede, and they seem so avoidable, and they seem so like, I remember we conceded the penalty and I was sitting there in the pub just thinking, we've done so well to get back into this game. We went 1-0 down, we picked ourselves back up. Decore equalises with a really clever flick on. I think that's 4 goal involvements in his last 3 games now for Abdoulaye Decore. He got an assist, of course, on the weekend as well. I thought he was absolutely excellent. And, you're sort of sitting there when you concede the penalty thinking it all counts for nothing, because we've once again, made a mistake that will lead to a goal. But, of course, we managed to pick ourselves back up. And that is one thing I'm seeing under Sean Dyche, is that the mentality of these players seems to be changing. And we seen it last season under Frank Lampard, I think, where the mentality changed a little bit and players started to believe a little bit more in themselves. And I think the coach greetings were a big part of that. And I think the atmosphere within Goodison was a big part of that. But and I'm not just saying this because of hindsight, and I'm not just saying this because, Frank Lampard has been sacked now, and hindsight's a wonderful thing, and this, that, and the other, but it always felt last season like there was a lot of belief and there was a lot of confidence towards the end of the season, or certainly belief in the fact that we could get out of that position, in the games like the Leicester game and Chelsea at Goodison and Man United at Goodison, etc. But there wasn't any real sort of structure behind it. There wasn't any real sort of tactical prowess or tactical quality behind it. It was all just belief, and we got through a number of games at the back end of last season on the basis of that belief, whereas now I feel like there's a belief there, but there's also a tactical quality behind the team that obviously is being brought in by the manager, and there's no surprise that a manager of Sean Dyche's experience and quality is able to bring that. And look, Sean Dyche took a risk on Saturday, and his risk was to put Ellis Sims on. Now, the last 3 or 4 games, Sean Dyche has put Neil Maupay on to try and go out and get a winner, or try and go out and get a consolation goal, or try and go out and get us back into the game, and it hasn't worked. And it would have been very easy for Sean Dyche to have thrown Neil Maupay on in this game. And does Neil Maupay score that goal like Ellis Sims scores? No, because A, I don't think he's anywhere near physical enough to do what Ellis Sims did to Kalidou Koulibaly, and B, I don't think he has the instinct to pick that ball up from Abdoulaye Decore and think, I'm going to drive a goal and I'm going to create an opportunity for myself. So the manager changed his decision, and instead of going with the player he'd usually go with, he went with, a young lad whose last appearance was against Liverpool, and okay, he wasn't particularly great in that game, but nobody was, and, it's extremely harsh to judge a young lad off of a Merseyside derby performance at Anfield, because, pretty much for the entirety of my lifetime, we've put in poor performances at that stadium. So, again, the manager changed up his substitutions, took a risk, and then, and it paid off. And as I said, for me, the confidence from the players in the system seems a lot more. Abdoulaye Decore's, in brilliant form at the moment. As I said, 4 goal involvements in his last 3 games for Abdoulaye Decore, a goal and assist again. Onana seems to be, whilst he's not unbelievably outstanding in terms of his performances, he seems to be confident, he seems to know what he's doing, he seems to be working hard. Same with Idrissa Gana Gueye as well. Dwight McNeil, as I've mentioned in recent weeks, has been absolutely outstanding, playing with confidence, working hard, battling, putting himself about, absolutely no issues with Dwight McNeil. I thought Damari Gray worked hard the other day. Defensively, as I said, I thought we were pretty solid. We looked good, and we looked like we believed, and it's these points that will become important at the end of the season. We spoke a couple of weeks ago about how disappointing the Nottingham Forest game was, and for me, the Nottingham Forest game was massively disappointing because it's a game we should have won. It's as simple as that. It's a game that I don't really care what anybody says. There's no conceivable thought for me as to why Everton didn't win that game against Nottingham Forest. We should have absolutely won that game against Nottingham Forest, and we didn't. We threw it away. We threw it away on 2 occasions. We were up twice, and we threw it away on 2 occasions. Now, that was 2 massively, two massively big points that were dropped in silly circumstances. This is a massive point gained against a difficult opposition. So, does it make up for that Nottingham Forest game? Maybe slightly, but imagine we'd have gotten 7 points out of the last 3 games. we'd all of a sudden be sitting here thinking, oh my God, look at how much better of a position we are. But you can't sort of dwell on it, and we didn't dwell on it. We picked ourselves back up. We went and we beat Brentford, and then we've gone again and beaten, we've gone again and gotten an important point against Chelsea. Our next game after the break is Tottenham at Goodison. Tottenham, who at the moment are in an absolutely shocking situation. Now, obviously, they're very much likely to be without Antonio Conte during that game, but that doesn't mean that they'll all of a sudden become an unbelievable team. There's talk of Ryan Mason taking over, who, no disrespect, but he's not the greatest manager in the world. So, yeah, look, for me, Everton ultimately have to carry this on. Again, as I said, not the greatest time to have an international break because we were building a little bit of momentum, but Sean Dyche has experienced enough and has been around the game long enough to know that you have to take, you have to carry on that momentum, and you have to carry on that run of form, even with there being a little bit of a break in between. Let's get into some of the comments then before we continue. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new, don't forget to subscribe. Remy says, even in Blues, Cam lad, how's everyone doing? I'm not too bad. Hope you're doing well. Wonderlust says, hey Cam, this is the opposite of the last March international break. What a good time to be a Blue. Yeah, very, very much good point. I remember the last March international break. I couldn't wait for it. I was, I was counting down the weeks for about 4 weeks before it actually happened. This one, not so much this one. I wouldn't have minded Everton having another game this weekend, to be perfectly honest with you. Subchesty says the Blues, what a better time than earlier to be a Blue. We've still got work, says Wonderlust, absolutely. Rob says, evening lads, what's this Lukaku rumour? I haven't seen a Lukaku rumour, mate. I seen one the other day to say that Everton, that Romelu Lukaku is maybe looking for a move back to the Premier League, and Everton, might be I don't know. I wouldn't think Romelu Lukaku will be an Everton player anytime soon. Put it that way. I wouldn't be holding your breath for that. Would I have him back? Listen, Everton in a relegation battle and are criminally lacking goal scorers, and Romelu Lukaku is an out-and-out goal scorer. So yes is the short answer. I think you'd be silly to not want him. Obviously, wages will come into it, and transfer fee and all of that sort of stuff, and that's what probably would be the killer to the deal. But if it was just a question, regardless of wages, regardless of transfer fee, do you want Romelu Lukaku back at Everton? Absolutely, because he scores goals, and we don't have anybody that does that at the moment. Can I see it happening? Absolutely not. The Blues says we had 3 big chances to Chelsea's 1, so it was a much-deserved point. Yeah, absolutely. Wayman says, as much as performances under Dyche have been better, they've got him in 9 weeks early and brought in transfers, I imagine. Well, exactly, and listen, we've spoke a number of times about the failures of the people that are in charge of this football club, and just how embarrassing those people are at doing their jobs. And had they have gotten Sean Dyche in after the Bournemouth games, before the international break, before the World Cup break, before some big important games against Wolves at Goodison, Southampton at Goodison, West Ham away, then yeah, I think we'd have gotten much more points than what we've got at the moment, put it that way, and we might be now sitting here in a much more comfortable position. But they didn't, and you look at the form table since Sean Dyche has become the Everton manager. I think Everton sits something like 6th in the Premier League table for form, so it just shows the impact that he's actually made, on the football club at the moment. But there's still an awful lot of hard work to do, and we will be sitting here at some point over the next couple of months talking about a disappointing defeat, and we're all sitting here worrying again. So we've just got to keep improving, we've just got to keep the performances up, and we've just got to keep going. Sam says, my man Nina said up the bastard toffees is right. But yeah, look, again, as I said, we did well to stay in the game. Chelsea didn't really offer an awful lot, and we weren't really offering an awful lot either. I think that has to be said. It's fair to say that it wasn't like we were, getting forward and creating opportunity after opportunity after opportunity. We weren't. We were very sort of reserved in the forward areas. We had a couple of half moments. One where Dwight McNeil made a really, really good run, but there was nothing on the end of it. And one where Damari Gray done similar, but nothing come of it. And then, Chelsea obviously get their opening goal. I think it was just in the beginning of the first half. It all mashes into one at the moment. Yeah, 52 minutes in, so not long after the second half had begun, João Felix finds himself in a bit of space, finds himself with a bit of room in the box. And to be fair, Jordan Pickford is blindsided, and it's ultimately a decent finish by João Felix. Could it have been defended better? I think so. Personally, I think so. I think we could have gotten out to him a little bit quicker. I think we could have blocked that space a little bit quicker, because it was, okay, although it's a good finish and it's under, I think it Megs Tarkowski and obviously blindsides Jordan Pickford, he's still got an awful lot of time to make that decision without anybody really coming out and blocking him. Almost instantly, Everton get back into the game. Cross comes in. Abdoulaye Doucouré gets on the end of it, flicks it over, 1-1, and you can really at that point start to see the belief. You can really start to see the confidence. You can really start to see the we don't care, we've gone 1-0 behind, we're going to get back into this game attitude. And then I thought Everton, for the next 15-20 minutes, managed the game really, really well. I think they nullified Chelsea to very little. Okay, they had a couple of, attacks that you're sort of holding your breath for, but not an awful lot, nothing much come of it. And then we give away the penalty. And then you're sort of sitting there thinking, a big opportunity to come away with a point, and with 15 minutes to go, we give away what, again, I don't think many people would have many arguments for it. It's soft, and don't get me wrong, there's not an awful lot of contact, but if it happens at the other end and it doesn't get given, then we're sitting here screaming and shouting about how disgraceful the officials are. Look, for me, the official was shocking anyway the other day, as they are every week. They embarrass themselves every week, but I've got no real complaints about this one. Havertz steps up, takes the penalty, decides to scream in Jordan Pickford's face for some reason. He's a bit of a little weirdo, Havertz, isn't he? Same with João Felix. They're a bit strange, bit strange them two. But yeah, takes the penalty and 2-1 down, and you're thinking, right, where do we go now? Now the manager's got to change it. Now we've got to do something different. We've got to try and go and get something out of this game. We can't sulk. We can't chop our heads. We can't let ourselves, we can't sit there and go, oh, we're shite, so it doesn't matter. We've got to get back into this game, and that's what we did. The manager brings Ellis Sims on for Gana Gay. 5-10 minutes later, ball comes up. Mikalenko's come on at this point as well, gets the ball up. It's a great flick on by Abdoulaye Doucouré, and as I said, we've spoken about this goal 100 million times already. It's an unbelievable first touch by Ellis Sims, completely embarrasses Koulibaly, takes it into the box, cuts in on his right foot, and finishes brilliantly. And as I said, Ellis Sims gets all of the plaudits, Ellis Sims gets all of the congratulations, he gets all of the headlines, he gets all of the praise, but I think a lot of praise has to go to the manager for making the change, but also the manager for setting that mentality of, no matter if you're 15 minutes away from the end of the game, if you're losing the game, you go and try and get back into the game, and that's what we did. And as I said, it's an unbelievable finish by Ellis Sims. What that means for him, we'll have to wait and see. Does that mean he gets in the team against Tottenham? Does that mean he becomes the first substitute? Does that mean he plays up front? We will have to wait and see, but it was a really, really good finish. And then obviously, as we said, Chelsea get about 400 corners in the last 30 seconds, none of which were actually Chelsea corners. But we managed to defend them really well, and we see the game out. And as the Blues says there in the comments, I think we set a record for the most blocks made in one game, a European record for the most blocks made in one game by James Tarkowski, which just shows you that we defended really, really well for the majority of this game. And as I said, we see it out for what was a really, really, really important and really, really impressive point. Keeps the momentum up, keeps the form up. 3 games on the bounce unbeaten now. And hopefully we can go and take advantage of what is a really, really, really struggling Tottenham Hotspur side, at the other end of the international break. So, yeah, there you go. Short one, but really, really good points, really impressive performance, and one that we can take a lot of confidence from, and one that we can certainly, take forward into a couple of really, really difficult games. That was a really difficult game. We got something out of it. Now we've got to get something out of the other games as well. Anyway, we are going to leave it there. If you have enjoyed this one, please do leave a like. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. We'll be back during the international break with a couple of other little short form videos where we talk about various different topics. If you have got anything you want us to talk about, by the way, then please do leave it in the comments and we will go over them. If you've watched it live, big thank you all for watching. I really do appreciate it. And if you're watching the YouTube video, leave your thoughts down below. But a big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're new, and we'll see you later.